Okay, section 5.6, slope-intercept form. So the slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b. So if we're going to use this slope-intercept form to graph, there's basically 3 steps that we are going to do. The first thing that we're going to do is graph the y-intercept. And then from the y-intercept, we're going to use the rise and the run from the slope to get to a second point on the line. And once we have that second point, we can then connect the dots and we will have our line. So on this graph here, we're given this line with the slope of negative 3/4 and a y-intercept of 5. The first thing that we're going to do is label our axis. So on our axes, here's my x-axis, and here's my y-axis. Once I have those in, I'm going to first use my y-intercept, and the y-intercept is where that line is going to cross the y-axis. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my y-intercept of 5, and that's at the point 0, 5. And then we have a slope of negative 3/4. So negative 3/4, we're going to use this as our rise, and this as our run. So our rise is a negative 3. So we're going to go down 3 units. We're not going to put a point, but from there, then we're going to run over 4 units. And then we're going to put our point. So we now have this point, which is at 4, 2. And we are going to create our line by connecting those dots. So plot the y-intercept first. From that y-intercept, use the slope, get a second point, and then connect those points. So now we could go on and say, okay, well, what's the equation of this line then? Because we're talking about slope-intercept, it takes on this form, y equals mx plus b, where b always represents the y-intercept, and m is always the slope. So we go to this equation, and we substitute in for the y. I'm sorry, we don't substitute in for the y. We leave the x and the y in the equation, and we substitute in the slope, which was a negative 3/4, and we put an x by it because the number directly in front of the x is the slope, and then we tag on the y-intercept, and that y-intercept in this case is 5. So this is the equation of this line. And that line and that equation have a slope of negative 3/4 and a y-intercept of 5. What about when you're given a slope and a point on the line? Well, you do basically the same thing, except instead of going on to the y-intercept and on the y-axis and plotting your first point, you're going to use the point that they give you and the slope from that point. So if I give you a point 3, 2 and a slope of, let's go 4/3. So on my axis now, I'm going to plot this point 3, 2. So I'm going over 3 in the x and up 2 in the y. And that's that point 4 or 3, 2. And then from that point, I'm going to go up 4, my rise of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and my run of 3. 1, 2, 3. Our run is always going to be to the right. We're not going to run to the left. And so this point here now has a new the point coordinates. That's it. Coordinates of this point is 6, 6. So we went up 4 units from 2, and we went 3 units from 3. Up 4 from 2, and 3 from 3 to get our 0.66. So there's our equation. Do we know where it crosses the y-axis? Well, we don't, but we could go backwards and go 3 units backwards. Now we're on the y-axis, right? And down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So by doing that, we can see that that line is going to extend out and cross the y-intercept at -2. Now that we know that for certain, now we can create our equation of our line. Y equals 4/3 x minus 2. So we put the slope in there and we put the y-intercept in there. And that's how we get the equation of the line. We continue it out to find out what the y-intercept would be. Now let's look at this case. Sometimes they ask you to interpret what these things mean. So a catering company charges $200 fee, a $200 fee. So if they come up on site, they're going to charge you $200 no matter what. And then they're charging $18 per person. So for 5 people served, $18 times 5 is how much? It's 70. So 18 times 5 is, no, it's 18 times 5 is 90. So this point here is at 290. At 10 people, this point right here is going to be 10, 380. And for 15 people, it's going to be 15, 470. Okay, so we have those points on this line along with the y-intercept of 200. Remember that 200 is that initial amount. The amount that we're changing with our rise and our run is our cost per person, which is $18 per person. That represents the slope of the line. So write an equation that represents the cost as a function of the number of guests. So our cost, y, is equal to 200, our initial condition, plus our slope times x. Slope, y-intercept, describe their meanings. The slope is the cost per person. The y-intercept is the initial charge. And then part C, find the cost of catering the event for 200 guests. So we would plug in 200 into the x. 200 times 18 is 3,600 plus 200. So our total cost is $3,800 for 200 people.